Welcome to another video. This week is gonna be a quick one, and it's also going to be more Photoshop heavy because the modeling is quite simple. So let's get right into it. As you've seen in the thumbnail, this week's video is going to be like an abandoned robot kind of thing, and it's a bit inspired in some of those Studio Ghibli shapes. So it's very round with large shoulder pads and a tiny head. So yeah, the modeling is going to be very basic. It's more of a blocking rather than modeling or sculpting anything. So as you can see, it's like super basic shapes. For the sphere, I created the hole on the front using a boolean. And the shoulder pads are basically two planes, or actually it's just one plane which is mirrored to the other side, and then I just added a subdivision surface modifier and then a solidify modifier. Same thing with the arms, it's just like a couple of cylinders and a couple of spheres, and then for the hips I just duplicated the torso. And here now I am changing the scale, because I have said in previous videos it's a nice practice to model things in real scale, so that's why I added the character in there, and then I just scaled everything up. So here I am just using some spheres to block out a little bit of the environment that I had planned, but then I ended up discarding those because they were not working, and I decided I just wanted to address those in Photoshop later. At the beginning I was just thinking like, well, maybe this is just like some hills or some giant rocks or something, but then I ended up going on a different path. So here I am importing a sky picture. It's just like an image on a plane if you ever turned on that add-on. And the thing that I'm doing here is just I want to get a sense of the light direction here. So previously I have decided that that was the sky picture that I wanted to use for this image. So I had to match the lighting a little bit to the picture in the background of the clouds and sky. So that's how I did it. I just created a Nishida sky texture, I believe, and then I just started playing with the rotation and the elevation of the sun. I created a volumetric material for that box, just to add a little bit of atmosphere in the scene, but I think I ended up not using it in the end as well. I decided I wanted to do all of that in Photoshop. So for some basic texturing, I just created a simple material which is from the Extreme PBR add-on, and then I imported a grass texture, and I am masking, or I am actually merging the two of those textures using the merge node, and I am using a noise generator or something like that, a noise texture, to mask some areas and create that abandoned look. As you can see, that technique is one I use very often. It works for texturing, for damage, for paint, for puddles of water, in many different things. So that's a technique that I use very often for almost everything, since it applies for many things. So here I am using Botanic, the add-on, to create a quick grass scatter for the terrain. And here's where I decided that probably the spheres that I had wouldn't work in the end, so I just kept the ground plane with some grass. I tried to add some assets from the Megascans library that I had saved in the asset browser, but then I didn't like them, so I got rid of those two here in a bit, because yeah, I had enough to work on, or at least for the time that I had for this, which is like around 3 to 5 hours for every of these videos. That's probably a better use of my time. So here I am rendering a few different passes, or at least that's the thing that I'm gonna do in a little bit. But first I'm getting rid of the sky texture because I don't want that showing up in my render. I'm going to add up that in Photoshop later. So as always, setting my mist pass, which is probably one of the most used passes too. Here I was rendering with the volumetrics and decided to get rid of it, and rather to use a mist pass in Photoshop a bit later, as you can see here in a few seconds. But yeah, it's again pretty straightforward, the same process that I use. And then this happened. So I lost the first part of the Photoshop video, so I'm gonna guide you through what's been going on. This is probably like just 10 to 15 minutes that got lost. So I've imported all of my passes into Photoshop, and here's my beauty pass. I exported with an alpha, and then I'm just adding some overlay layer to bring up the shadows in the shadow areas, just to bump up the exposure, let's say. Here I imported the ambient occlusion layer and tweaked the values a little bit so I get the white and the black as pure as I can, so I can then change the blending mode to multiply. Here I've imported the sky image that I have used previously in Blender, so I can start like compositing both of those images. That cloud was bothering me, so I just got rid of it and started painting some clouds with some guiding lines towards the robot, and you can see the difference in detail when you compare. I added a couple of PNG tree cutouts, and I added some rocks to fake the arms being buried in the ground or something. I added another pass to create like some shadows coming from some clouds off screen. Try to follow the light direction as best as I could. And then here's the mist pass in screen blending mode, and that helps me create some atmospheric perspective for the background and really bring up the main focus of this image, which is the abandoned robot. Yeah. So I just set that to screen, and that works most of the time. Here I added another layer in overlay, painting gray and white, sometimes a little bit of black, as you can see in a little bit, but I use that to tweak the values and really pop some things out. I added more PNG cutout trees in the foreground, and then I added some adjustment layers to tweak the values and make them be in the foreground. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened in the 10 to 15 minutes of lost footage. So I am going to go back to the actual time lapse right now, as you are all caught up. Yeah, so first of all, I improved the texture a little bit using some photo texture of some rust, and then decided to erase the areas that I didn't want, and using different brushes and trying to blend the texture with the render underneath. Then I added a duplicate of those rocks and created a blue layer on top in multiply to fake that cast shadow on the right side. Yeah, so here I am tweaking again the values a little bit, and then I start playing with the filters in Photoshop to get rid of the CG-ness of the render. This one was a little bit more tricky, comparing it to the last week video of the arches, because this one is mere daylight, so it's a little bit more difficult to fake. I tried the AI filters, the style transfer, something like that, and it kind of worked, but I didn't like them that much. So now I am creating a new layer in overlay, and I am painting with a texture brush, painting in gray and white depending on what I need, to get some directionality in the brush strokes. And again, this technique of creating another layer in overlay and painting with black and white to bring out the values as I need them. Here I am using a mixer brush to try to fake the render underneath, try to add some painterly style to the render and fake a little bit more the appearance of detail. Also trying to soften some edges here and there and completing that area from the basic view. Here I am adding some binds, playing with some brushes that might work, just to further improve the abandoned look of the scene. Here I'm bringing back some of the shadows, adding some more binds, and yeah, trying to ground the robot with the ground. Here I tried to add a little bit more of moss, but it didn't work quite as I expected, so I just got rid of a big part of it. Adding more binds in here, and then finally some bloom from what's it called, from the sun off camera. And at this point it's like pretty much done. I'm just adding some more overlay, another layer in overlay to add some color variants to further bring everything together. And then I am adding some textures, and here I'm gonna start playing with the color grading, which some of you may either like or dislike. In the end, I quite liked the final result. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Doing further adjustments with the overlay layer and topping with black and white. White to bring up highlights and black to bring up the shadows. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Adding some texture, some noise, and that's it. Next week we're going to have a product review, so it's gonna be a good one. Subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, guys.